This is Sunday Morning Magazine with your host, Rodney Lear.
And welcome back. All morning long, we're talking about infertility. For more information on infertility or to join the conversation with our guests this morning, all you have to do is go to our Facebook page, Sunday Morning Magazine with Rodney Lear on Facebook. Head there now and like us there now. In the studio with me is David and Jennifer Bross. They're founders of Parental Hope. It's our pleasure to welcome David and Jennifer to Sunday Morning Magazine.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Now, you are the founders of Parental Hope. Before we talk about that organization, let's talk about your personal journey. Tell us your story.
Sure. So shortly after David and I got married a couple years ago, we discovered that we both had some fertility issues. So we went to the Institute for Reproductive Health to kind of get checked out, and it was discovered and confirmed that we both had some issues, and it was likely that we weren't going to be able to get pregnant naturally. So we started treatment with Dr. Schreiber, and the ball started rolling. We started with IUIs, which is intrauterine insemination. We did a couple rounds of that, had no success, and then made the decision to move forward with in vitro fertilization. As our doctor said, that was pretty much the only way that we were going to be successful with starting a family. So we started that a couple years ago, and went through a few rounds, of the hormone shots and the egg retrieval, and luckily we were able to retrieve over 30 eggs, which was great. However, I developed ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, or OHSS. And I was on bed rest for 10 days. I had a liter drained from my ovaries, a liter of fluid drained from my ovaries. So that kind of caused a little kink in the process. It didn't go as seamless as we had hoped. We did the first transfer. That was unsuccessful. We did the second transfer. That was also unsuccessful. And then we made the decision to do another transfer, go right into it. And lo and behold, it worked. Both embryos decided to stick, and we ended up pregnant with twins.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, that was our story, the short version.
That's your story. David, you both had issues in terms of getting pregnant. So how did you deal with that, as a man and things like that? And we talked about this in an earlier segment. When we think of infertility, we often think of, the woman. But as a male, what did you go through?
Oh, it's hard. It's really hard. I had my own personal issues with infertility, and I was able to deal with those, I think, from an emotional standpoint. I always take a look at things like, okay, this is what it is. Let's, figure out how to resolve it. I think from Jen's perspective, I think from an emotional standpoint, she had a much harder time. And my job was to be there for her throughout the entire process. And that was going to all the doctor's visits, holding her hand through everything, and then just being that shoulder she could cry on. And I'll be honest with you, it was extremely tough because it took me several months to figure out how to do that, how to be that rock for her. I kept trying to solve the issue instead of just listening to her and saying, I understand what you're going through, but truly I never did understand. So once I figured out how to do that, I think it made it a lot better. But the entire process, we battled this for almost a year, and it is a roller coaster. There are days where, you go into the doctor's office and there's something positive, and then there's 2 days later you go back and then there's something negative. It is just a roller coaster, and it's very tough. And you just got to celebrate the victories and then, deal with the heartbreak. And, we were fortunate to only have to deal with that emotional battle. We didn't have to worry about the financial aspect of it because we did have health insurance for that.
Okay. So let's talk about this. You are talking about this, and I think this is a key component. Let's talk about the emotional piece of this all. You talked about you didn't have to worry about the financial piece, which was awesome for you guys. But this emotional thing of, okay, it didn't work. This time it didn't work. Is it ever going to work? We talked about this with Laura earlier. Tell us about that piece for you guys, the emotional toll.
Sure. It's really tough to digest that your body isn't capable of doing what it's supposed to do. And so, going through the process, it's a struggle. It's, and in the beginning we stayed pretty tight-lipped, closed seal. We didn't really open up about it. And then when we actually started the IVF process, we a couple rounds in, we said, you know what, let's just open up, because I think that's going to help remove this weight off of our shoulder. Let's see if other people are going through this, because 1 in 8 couples, are affected by infertility. And it's, people just aren't talking about it. And so we opened up, and it was just instant relief, and instant support too. And we didn't get a lot of questions, oh, when is the next transfer? When is this? We didn't get a lot of that. It was more, hey, I went through that too. Oh, my cousin went through that. My sister went through that. Oh, my twins are from IVF, my, daughter, and so it just was really reassuring to go, wow, I'm not alone in this, even though you feel so isolated. And so I think as a society, we need to embrace, those who are battling infertility, because they're out there. It's probably the person sitting next to you on the bus, or your server at a restaurant. We're out there, and we need support.
Yeah, and I will say, we were at the age where all of our friends were having babies, and it felt like they were just getting pregnant, with the snap of the finger. And, if people don't know that you're going through it, all questions are, well, you guys have been married for how long? When are you going to start a family? And unfortunately, it's just not that easy for everybody. And, that's the emotional aspect of it, is you see everybody else being successful, but why aren't you being successful?
So let me ask you this now. I remember my stepdad once told me this. He said, hard times can also make good times. Do you think that this experience has drawn you guys closer? You talked about how you had to learn to, hold your wife's hand and help her along in the process. Did this draw you guys closer as a couple?
Oh my gosh, yes.
They say the first year of marriage is the hardest, right? I mean, and when you add this to that, it makes it that much harder. But I know Jen more after that process than I ever probably would have, going through that, how she deals with, difficult things in her life, how emotional she is, how much she cares. Learned all those things, and I think it's helped me be a better husband to her. So absolutely, we were absolutely 100% stronger.
This is one of those things where it can either pull you together or pull you apart.
I agree.
And it pulled us together for sure. I mean, if we can get through this, we can get through anything. I have full confidence in that.
All right. And in case you're just tuning in this morning, I'm Rodney Lear. All morning, we're talking about infertility. In the studio with me is David and Jennifer Bross. They're the founders of Parental Hope. For more information on infertility, you can reach out to us on our Facebook page, or to join the conversation this morning, go to Sunday Morning Magazine with Rodney Lear on Facebook. Head there now, like us there now, and again, join the conversation there as well. Now, you guys decided to start Parental Hope. Tell us why you decided to start this foundation or this organization, and explain to us what you guys do.
Across the country, from a health insurance standpoint, health insurance companies do not cover infertility treatment. When we were going through it, we were lucky to be in Jen work in Illinois, which is one of only 8 states across the country that mandates health insurance for infertility. So we knew going through the process that we were very fortunate that this was fully covered. I mean, it was basically, we were treated as if we had pneumonia. We were in the hospital. It was amazing. And so when we finally got pregnant, we had this sense of like appreciation for that. And so we started talking about, how we were to how to give back. And we had 2 leftover embryos and we knew that we weren't going to use them. We had our 2 miracle children. And so we actually ended up donating those embryos to another couple, and it's a closed adoption. And there was a couple that could not get pregnant on their own with their embryos. And so fortunately, they ended up getting pregnant with one of the embryos that we donated to them. And so we had that sense of a feeling that, oh my gosh, we donated these embryos, and we had that ability to give somebody the chance at parenthood, and now they're going to be parents. And that only fueled the fire. So it was like, how do we give back? Well, we started researching nonprofits that provide support to couples going through infertility. And what we realized was there just weren't a lot out there. And most of them that were out there were geographical. And so I think there's one in California, one in Texas, one in Nebraska, one up in New Jersey. But they all seem to only help people in those geographic areas. And so we decided to start Parental Hope with a few other infertility patients at the Institute of Reproductive Health to help couples going through this process. And I'll turn it over to Jen to kind of talk about what we actually do to help that.
And you help them, and let's be clear, you help them how?
Sure. So Parental Hope gives away at least one grant, IVF, that could be used towards in vitro fertilization at the Institute for Reproductive Health here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And that grant will be given away in December. This year, we are actually very fortunate enough to have raised enough money that we will be giving away 2 grants, at least 2, hopefully more if we can, earn some more donations and some fundraising. And to do that, couples can log on to our website, parentalhope.org, and download the application. Fill out the application. It is pretty lengthy, as you can imagine. There's a medical history. There's a form that needs to be completed by your doctor. There's an essay portion. And applications are due September 1st. So that is just one aspect of how we're helping couples, is providing that financial support. Unfortunately, we can't help everybody that applies. So we are also, our mission is to just raise infertility awareness to the community, and to offer support to those going through this. So currently we're developing a programming for a monthly support group, which is in the works. So we're very excited, and hopefully that'll launch here midsummer. But so that's just a few of the ways that we help. And we're here as a resource. If someone's going through something and they don't have anyone to talk to, reach out to us. We'll go have coffee with you. We'll tell you, we'll listen. We've seen it all. We've been through it. And I think having Dave, both of us have male and female factor infertility. I think we offer a unique perspective, because oftentimes, as you mentioned earlier, that it is just assumed that it's always the woman that has the issues. And so, Dave's like, hey, I had problems, and it's not easy for a man to own up to that and to embrace it. And, we're here for support.
Okay. So let me ask you this now. When you work with couples and talk to couples, what do they experience when they're battling both the emotional aspect of infertility, and then you talk about that financial piece? Let's talk about what you hear, what people are saying to you, and what you've seen.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, oftentimes it's, sure, I'm battling the emotional, but there is this heavy, heavy weight of, how do I pay for this $10,000 to $20,000 procedure that gets me a shot at having a child? Oftentimes couples are forced to take out a second mortgage on their home, max out their credit cards, take loans from friends and family. And no couple should have to do that. That's really a flaw with our insurance system, is that it's not covered. And so hopefully one day, everyone will have insurance coverage that provides, coverage for infertility, because it's needed,
The emotional aspect of infertility is extremely difficult to overcome as it is. And when you tack on that financial burden as well of, how am I going to pay for this? Yeah, I'm going to have a child, but then all of a sudden I'm going to be tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And how do I pay for that, after the fact? That was the goal, and I love that child, but, there's that financial piece after the fact, is how do we pay for this? And, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and this region are not part of those 8 states that provide that health insurance coverage to help couples with that. I'm a believer that everybody should have the ability or the chance at parenthood if they want it. And, what we're trying to do is just trying to help, a couple to, and hopefully more down the road, have that chance at parenthood.
And we're giving them that hope, because hope really is the only thing that gets you through this emotional roller coaster, is hoping and praying on the other end that you come out with a child. Because some couples don't. The couple that we donated our embryos to, they went through several rounds of IVF, and their own embryos weren't working. So they turned to embryo adoption, and on the first transfer, our embryos worked for them.
But let me ask you this. You talked about the embryo adoption. So,
Sure.
So I'm guessing genetically this child is is yours. Is that right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Genetically, it has our makeup, our DNA, but there are studies out there that biologically that child is hers because she carried it. The blood is running through that her blood is running through that child. She's giving birth to them, and no, 100% in my book that is her child. We do not think of that as our child, and that's hers. And what better gift than to give somebody the gift of life?
Let's go back to the grants that you guys award through Parental Hope. How much money are we talking about, or is it treatment based, or what are we looking at?
Yeah, it's treatment based. So it's for one round of IVF, which includes the retrieval process and then a transfer. If the couple's fortunate to have multiple embryos after that process that they can freeze and use for further transfers, those transfers are the financial responsibility of the recipient. We can't, unfortunately, just continue to pay for treatment until they get pregnant. But what we're doing is we're giving them a good first start. The most expensive part of IVF is that initial piece, the retrieval and that initial transfer. And what the Institute for Reproductive Health has done is they've been absolutely wonderful partners, and they have provided us with the ability to be successful very early on. They've reduced their cost to us to allow us to award more grants to more recipients. And so we do have a very detailed application process, as you might imagine, because we do expect many people to apply for this, because there are many people who have this disease but cannot afford the treatment necessary to overcome it. And so we want to make sure that we are, providing this grant to a recipient that it really means something to them. Yes, they're going to have that financial component, but we also want a recipient that, understands what it is to be a parent, understands that, that this is something that they maybe not would have had if not for the Parental Hope grant. We want somebody that's going to be active in our organization after the fact and give back because they were, fortunate enough to have
blessed.
this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And, that's what we are. We were blessed with the opportunity to not have that financial burden.
And we don't take that for granted.
Right. And that's why we started this, is we want to give back. We want to help others achieve that same goal, and help alleviate at least one of the difficult aspects of infertility, and that's the financial component.
All right. And so how many grants have you awarded thus far, or will this be your first grant?
This will be our first.
Wow,
this
good.
organization was started in January. We started meeting back in November, just to make sure we could do this. We had our first event during National Infertility Awareness Week in at the end of April, and we had a great attendance. We raised a little over $10,000 toward the cause. And through the rest of this year, we'll be doing some smaller fundraising events. We will be creating awareness for infertilities through our social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, through our website. And then next April, during National Infertility Awareness Week, we will be having a much larger event to hope fundraise and plan for the end of 2017. But for 2016, like Jen said, we have raised enough money to where we can at least award a couple of the Parental Hope Family grants. And hopefully, maybe over the course of the next 6 months, we'll receive some more donations in order to allow us to award a third. But for being, in our first year, I think we're doing pretty well to be able to award a couple so far.
Okay, normally at this point, I would say, what would you say to the person out there listening this morning, the infertile couple that, wants to reach out to you to apply for the grant? But I don't think I have to do that in this case. I'm sure that there are people, the infertile couples are hearing this and clicking right now and trying to get there. So what are you looking for in terms of the couple? You talked about you want them to be active. You want them to be able to give back. What else are you looking for on that application?
Well, there's three main components to it. There's the financial piece. Obviously, there's no set income requirement or anything like that. But, somebody that demonstrates that, that they don't have the ability to drop, tens of thousands of dollars on something like this. There is an essay piece of this, which we want you to write an essay about what it means to be a parent, what it means, what has your infertility journey meant to you? How have you overcome it? How have you dealt with it? What does this mean to you? And then there's also a medical diagnosis piece. And we want to, we think it's important to know what exactly is the medical diagnosis that, for infertility. Do you have PCOS? Do you have male factor? This isn't, the infertility isn't elective, for example, vasectomy or something like that. Those three components are going to make up how we award this. And then we will have an interview process as well for the finalists to meet them, to understand where they're coming from, and to see what kind of people they are. And then at the end of that, we'll be able to make a determination in terms of the recipient of that.
All right. And if our listeners, if they would like to apply for this grant through Parental Hope, deadline is September 1st, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. So what do our listeners need to do to apply?
So log on to our website, parentalhope.org. And there is on the menu, there's a grant section, and it walks you through the eligibility, it walks you through the process, and then there are, I believe, 4 download documents that you can download, and then just have that into us by September 1st. There is a $50 application fee that is considered a donation to Parental Hope.
And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can go to parentalhope.org. All of our email addresses are attached to our bios. And not only that, if you don't have questions about the application per se, but you just have questions about infertility in general, we're happy to answer those as well. We are fortunate to be have a national news story where we had it aired in several states across the country, and we had people reaching out to us, just emailing us with telling us their story. And we're going through this, and how did you get through it? And we emailed them back, and we conversed, and hopefully we helped those people. And so if you're going through it right now and you just need somebody to kind of maybe re-energize and give you that hope that there's a couple here that overcame it, and now we're trying to get back, we're more than happy to have that conversation.
All right. Well, with that, we're out of time this morning. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. Bless you for what you're doing for so many infertile couples. If our listeners would like to reach out to you again, the website again for Parental Hope and the contact information. You talked about how you can go online and get your emails there. What's the website again?
Sure. It's parentalhope.org. We also have a Facebook page, so please log on, like us. We have lots of motivational pictures and photos and quotes going on to help you get through this process. We have a Twitter page, and we also have an Instagram feed as well. So, and our contact information, like David said, is on that webpage as well. So, and those emails come directly to David and myself. So, and we respond right away.
Yeah, and the main email is info@parentalhope.org.
Okay, and finally this morning, for couples listening this morning, what's your message to them that are going through this infertility struggle? We talked about the emotional roller coaster. Mm-hmm. What's your advice to them?
Don't ever give up hope.
No.
I mean, as bleak as the situation may be, there's always a chance. Jen and I were down so far at times during our journey, and we never gave up hope, and we found a way to persevere. And now we have 2 beautiful children that are our entire lives. And thinking back about it, I'm like actually kind of tearing up a little bit, but just never give up hope.
No.
Never give up hope.
And lean on each other. I think that's really important to get through this, is to lean on each other and don't shut each other out. It's the worst thing you could do.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Much. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
We've been speaking to David and Jennifer Bross, founders of Parental Hope.